Under modern Islamic law, a child who is adopted has no legal right to their adoptive father's surname or a share of his inheritance. The legal connection between the two is essentially non-existent. This restriction contradicts the social landscape of early Arabia. Before the rise of the current doctrine, formal adoption was a culturally respected way to integrate orphans into new, permanent families with full legal standing. Prophet Muhammad participated in this tradition himself. He adopted a man named Zayd, who became known throughout the community as Zayd bin Muhammad. Muhammad solidified this bond in front of the Kaaba in Mecca. He swore a public oath that Zayd was his son, declaring that they would inherit from one another as blood relatives. Since the Qur'an contains numerous mandates for the protection and care of orphans, it is worth examining why the legal system eventually dismantled the very mechanism that provided those orphans with fathers. The shift began with an arranged marriage. Muhammad selected his own cousin, Zaynab bint Jahsh, to be the wife of his adopted son, Zayd. Zaynab initially fought the arrangement. She was a member of the nobility, while Zayd was a former slave, and she felt this social gap made the match inappropriate. Her resistance ended when a new revelation, Quran 33:36, arrived. The verse stipulated that when Allah and His Prophet decided a matter, a believer had no choice but to obey. Zaynab and Zayd were married shortly after. The relationship changed one day when Muhammad went to Zayd's home to speak with him. Zayd was out, but the wind shifted the curtain to the inner chamber, and the Prophet saw Zaynab undressed. Historical accounts from Tabari and 𝗂𝗶𝗵𝗁 record that this accidental encounter had an immediate impact. Muhammad was struck by Zaynab's appearance, and he left the house expressing a newfound admiration for her. This created an unprecedented religious and social crisis. The Prophet was now enamored with the woman who was legally his own daughter-in-law. Tensions within the household escalated. Zayd reportedly began suffering from physical ailments that made intimacy with his wife impossible, a condition some traditional commentators interpreted as a divine sign that Zaynab was being reserved for someone else. Recognizing the Prophet's feelings, Zayd decided to step aside. He approached Muhammad and offered to divorce Zaynab so that his father could marry her. Muhammad initially urged Zayd to stay with his wife, publicly counseling him to fear God and maintain his marriage, while privately grappling with his own desires. The tension was resolved by Quran 33:37. This revelation chastised Muhammad for hiding his true feelings and explicitly stated that God had joined him and Zaynab in marriage. However, this marriage violated a deep Arabian taboo. Because Zayd was legally Muhammad's son, marrying his ex-wife was viewed by the public as an act of incest. This logic flow explains the function of the next revelation. Verse 40 abolished the legal concept of adoption entirely. By erasing Zayd's status as a son, the law simultaneously erased Zaynab's status as a daughter-in-law, removing the final obstacle to the marriage. This legal maneuver effectively rewrote the definition of family. The ban on adoption functioned as a retroactive measure to validate the Prophet's marriage and shield him from the charge of breaking a social taboo. Zayd was the primary casualty of this change. He lost his wife and his legal identity as a member of Muhammad's family, reverting to his original name, Zayd bin Hāritha. Other verses appeared to manage the fallout. When guests lingered too long at the wedding celebration, verse 53 was revealed, instructing believers to leave the Prophet's home immediately after eating to avoid irritating him. Despite the new scriptural justifications, negative talk about the arrangement persisted within the close-knit community of Medina. Shortly after the scandal peaked, Muhammad assigned Zayd to lead a force of 3,000 men into Byzantine territory. In previous years, Zayd had led raids against merchant caravans, but this mission required him to engage a professional imperial army at Mu'tah. Zayd was killed in the battle against these superior forces. His death in the field permanently removed the man who had been the central figure in the controversy. The prohibition of adoption in the Islamic world remains a defining feature of the faith's legal code. This policy, which denies formal family rights to millions of orphans, finds its origins in the legal erasure of a son to accommodate the needs of a father.